Welcome to MLVNG Sound. This is the Open Eye Podcast. I am your host and narrator, westthefree. We're 2 episodes deep into the show, having started with season number 1, Being a Man, and this is episode number 2. Today, the main topic is about taking up the fight and engaging your potential. Potential can be defined as having or showing the capacity to develop into something in the future, or a latent quality or ability that may be developed and led to future success. Now, if it's going to be useful in the future or it's going to lead to success in the future, it means that between the now and the future, there's something missing. This requisite thing that is required to actualize oneself, to go from the desire to the goal, to go from the potential to the actual attainment of the desired outcome. What is this thing? I like to define it as the fight or the bridge. When I was younger, I used to love speaking to my father. He was a very practical, very pragmatic man, and he used to enlighten me a lot on things I didn't understand purely because I was too young to make sense of the world. And one day I asked him, why do I have to give these little strips of paper to get something? At the time I was speaking about a skateboard that is so much more durable and stronger, and is there something wrong with a shopkeeper? What exactly is money? And he sat me down and he gave me a very interesting example. He said, money is like a bridge. You're on one side and you want to get to the other side. The bridge is going to help you get there. But once you get there, you don't fold the bridge up and put it in your pocket and move on. You understand that that bridge has a capacity to help other people get to where you want to get to as well. And in the intricacies of the economy as we know it, that requires so many people to play their part to make this ecosystem of ours work. As I would later grow into an adult and become much more fascinated by economics, I understood that his example had been more a father trying to illuminate his son to the fundamental truths that he had been aware of. But it goes a little bit deeper than that. Money in and of itself is more like a value holder in society's eyes that shows us who we value more. Who do we give more money to? And perhaps you inherited it. Perhaps you started a business that allowed you to earn a tremendous amount of money. Maybe you stole it. Maybe you won it in the lottery system. But the money itself, it can't do anything. I've never seen anybody hop on money and go to work. I've never seen anybody put money on their plate and eat it. I mean, I've seen them do it, but it's usually for Instagram purposes. The reality of it is money represents, like you, potential. And until you've spent that money, it has an endless amount of things that you can do with it. Imagine for a minute that you have $1,000. With that $1,000, you have a choice between 12 different items, some ranging from $200, others ranging all the way up to $1,300. Of course, the higher end items are going to be out of your reach, and the lower end items are going to be easier to get. But say there's something you really, really want that costs exactly $1,000. It means you can choose to either get 5 items that are worth $200, 2 items that are worth $500, or you can get 1 item that's worth $1,000 individually. This is your potential as a man, especially in this world. You're given this finite currency, this time, and your skills and competencies and things that you enjoy, these can be likened to the $1,000. You choose what you're going to give your attention to. A lot of us in our early 20s, we run after girls like it's going out of fashion, only to come around in our 30s and realize that was a tremendous amount of time I could have done something constructive with. I could have learned a craft. I could have learned an art. I could have learned a skill that would be sustaining me right now. That is, if you're not financially free. But I didn't do that. I chose to take that time and fiddle and entertain myself and not even build tangible relationships that were able to last. It was just a hedonistic chase of the thrill. And that is a waste of potential, because pleasure in and of itself cannot be the goal. Not as a man. That is always going to be disappointing in the long run. It has immediate reward, but in the long term, it's really just like burning cash. It does nothing for you or the economy. It's just a drain. So when you put all of these together, then you have to understand what the fight really comes down to. The fight is a matter of scarcity. You know, one of my favorite economists, Thomas Sowell, he says that really everything is about choices. We have choices to make on a daily basis. And of course, I'm completely paraphrasing what he said, but my takeaway from a lot of his lectures were that the best lives are led by the people who are able to make the hardest choices. And if you're going to make a hard choice, it would be in your best interest to put a certain amount of research into it to make sure that your choice is going to be the best possible choice for you and whoever is going to be influenced by that decision. So you look at your potential, whether you're in your late teens, early 20s, mid 20s, early 30s. Heck, even if you're in your 50s, even if you've got a year left to your life, you've still got some time in which you can make some decisions that are going to be yours. I always loved the show Breaking Bad because it shows the progression of a man who's never taken time to ask himself, what is my potential worth? High intellect, born in one of, well, actually, the world's most developed country. And still, up until his 50th birthday, he has not actually taken the requisite time to sit introspectively and look at his life and ask himself what he really wants to do, the fight. That is the first question. What do you really want to do? The second question would be, do you understand the root motivation behind your desire? If you're going to get into this arena, if you're going to get into this fight, and you're going to give the one thing you cannot get back, your potential and your time, you have to make sure that you're doing it for you. Are you doing it because the boys at marketing convinced you that a shiny new model of the very same car you had last year is what you need? Or perhaps that pocket device of yours that eats up so much time? Or maybe it's getting new toys or new fashion items for those people that you don't really like that much, but you keep them around because, well, for some reason that is beyond me. There's a lot going on. But do you understand the root motivation behind your desires? Is it really for you, or are you allowing that part of your brain that is so primordial, so old, so underdeveloped that you yourself struggle to understand the decisions that it makes you take sometimes? That is the catch. If you don't think for your brain will think for you. And it's a statement that at face value almost doesn't make any sense. But my mentor likes to tell me that thinking must be deliberate and it must have an end goal. Otherwise, it's just brain farts. And I've come to realize that that's true, because in this system of functioning, if you don't stop to ask yourself the why, then somebody else is going to fill it in for you, and before you realize it, you're going to be helping him actualize his potential and reach his goals much, much, much sooner. The third question you'd have to ask yourself is, what will it take to get what I want? Let's say you do go with what the boys in marketing have sold you and you decide to make that your life purpose. Do you understand what it will take for you to get it? Do you understand what it will require of you? Which ties into the fourth question. What do you need to sacrifice for this desire? To become a professional NFL player or a professional NBA player, you will have to forego your desire to become a physicist because you will not have the time to do both. To become the slickest man on campus and get all the girls' panties in a knot, you will have to forego your academics because you're going to be spending all your time doing this one thing. If you want to have a really good relationship, then, well, you might as well just say bye-bye to your summer fun in being able to hook up with as many people as you want to because you've decided to go the one partner route. At the end of the day, understanding what you have to sacrifice means that you understand just how much something means to you. Are you willing to sacrifice this thing? Are you willing to go for this one option instead of all these other options? And is this the best use of your time? If you don't ask yourself that question, then you have to understand that you will end up sacrificing it irrespective. Because even if you choose to do nothing, that is also a decision. But that's the worst kind of decision because then you'll just be trading in your potential and your time for nothing. Like the man who walks into the arena, it doesn't even attempt to fight. And in trying to flee, gets hacked in the back. He never even stood a chance. He might have surprised himself if he had tried. That fear, it really brings us into the final question. If you never achieve anything, I have to restate that. If you never achieve anything of worth in your lifetime, will the identity of the man you've come to believe yourself as become stronger, or will your life lose meaning? Where do you derive your meaning? You're about to take this potential of yours. You're about to get into this fight. You're about to get into this arena. You're about to start this journey. But being you, being a man, having the burden of performance, having everybody look at you and say, you're the one who's going to carry all of this. It's not something that's said explicitly, but we all know it. If you never achieve anything of any worth in your lifetime, what will that do for you? Is that something you're willing to live with? Oftentimes you see people who are going through so much in their life, usually in their later years, dealing with the disappointments of children who used to be so wonderful and angelic, but now are major disappointments. And they may feel resentful to the children, but can we really blame the children? Did you do your absolute best to get what you wanted? While you're busy working that corporate job, really what you wanted was a good family to come home to. But were your priorities straight? Did you, from the onset, define for yourself what you wanted? Because you might find that something as beautiful as a family is given to you, but that's not what you needed for your soul. You needed to travel. Or you might find that you end up traveling and what you needed was a family. Taking time to be introspective and to get to know yourself, it's something that is absolutely necessary, from the smallest of decisions as to what range of toothpaste am I going to use, to big decisions. Who am I going to marry? Am I going to marry at all? Am I even going to have children? Because you get one run at this. And I think we hear that so much that we don't really pay attention to what it means. Imagine if every month, when the month began, they told you that you're going to go to your local grocery store or your local Walmart and you can only go in once. And then for 30 days, you cannot go to any other grocery store. You cannot go to any other Walmart. You can only go once. You'll be very precise about what you do in that Walmart and how you do it, because you know you're not going to be able to get any more supplies for 30 days. So if you forgot toilet paper, tough luck. That's where you are right now with your potential. If you're not dead, you have some level of potential. Now, you may be sitting there thinking, I've already missed my shot. I'm not the high school freshman I was. I can't do X, Y, and Z. That is absolute baloney. The truth is, only the dead have no potential. At this point, you can do anything. Which gets us into the next point. Past, present, and future. You need to look at the past, look at the actions that you've taken in the past, and you need to scrutinize them carefully. You need to break them down and dissect them and try to understand these decisions and what caused these decisions, because it says a lot about the man that you are, because those decisions were made by you, whether conscious or unconscious. Even if you made them thinking that you were influenced by other people, you haven't quite made peace with the fact that you are the one who has complete power over your life. Then you need to look at the present. Ask yourself, why am I here? Is this where I want to be? If this is not where you want to be, why are you here? Why are you allowing yourself to be stuck in this rut? And then there's the future. What kind of future do you want? And how different will you have to go about your life to make sure that you get that future? Are you going to repeat the same actions as your past that got you here? And now you're in the fight. Now you understand that it's not a fight where you need to pull out a sword and kill a person. It's a fight that requires consistency. It requires principles, routines, habits, and measurable goals. Measurable because you need to have metrics that you can keep up with. Timelines, dates, times. You need to be able to have KPIs that you can measure and say, these are my key performance indexes. When I do this at this time, I know I'm moving forward. If you don't do that, then you're just daydreaming. And the applicable law here would be very simple. You need to act first. That idea or that desire or that yearning or that craving or that calling, it came to you specifically for a reason. And now you're about to cash in your potential. You're about to get into the fight and you're about to start. Do not seek to know the whole road. Only walk the path and find meaning as you adjust course. The reasoning here is that you need to plan, act, adjust, review, act, adjust, repeat until you find the answer. Because ask any master strategist or master planner. You just try to see ahead to the points of familiarity, but you cannot plan the whole way out. Oftentimes you have to adjust and even change the whole plan completely. Many an entrepreneur has started a business only to realize his success after his 7th failure on his 8th business. Many a person has entered into a marriage with lifetime commitments only to find true happiness on their 3rd marriage. Many a child has thought that this was going to be their career path only to find themselves doing something else in their adulthood. You see, life is dynamic. It is not static. It's always changing. And if you don't change with it, you're going to find yourself stuck. And then you're going to start to shake your fist at the old man in the sky and ask yourself why life has been unfair to you. See, the world is not fair. You need to make peace with that right now. The world is not fair. The fact that you were not born in some 3rd world country, and even if you were, believe me, you even have choices there. But if you were not, if you're listening to this from the comfort of somewhere, then it means on some level you understand that you have to use this moment to your advantage. It's going to require some effort. And you have to make sure that that effort is worth it, because not all effort is equal. Some effort has a disproportional outcome to the effort itself. For example, a landscaper who cuts the lawn in neighborhoods all day, he works very, very hard. Or an aluminium recycle man, if I can call him that. Perhaps he's homeless. Perhaps he has no income and he recycles aluminium cans to feed himself. He works tremendously hard for very little remuneration. Whereas somebody who uses his brain sitting in an air-conditioned office based on a certain amount of effort that he puts in, he gets a very different reward. Now, how both these individuals ended up in those situations, you have to become indifferent to that. It may sound cold and callous, but it doesn't matter where you should have been or where you feel like you should be. What matters is where you are, being able to detach yourself from your emotions and say, now I need to get to where I want to be. What am I going to have to do to get to that place? Do you want to be a businessman? Or do you want to be an aluminum can collector? Do you want to be a landscaper? Or do you want to be a father of 2? Do you want to be a professional NBA player? Or do you want to be a social anthropologist? See, these decisions are like diverging roads. And once you've made the decision, you won't notice tomorrow. Tomorrow, you and your buddies will still be hanging together, drinking beers, still talking the same crap. But you've got different majors. Next month, probably you'll still be at the same university. Heck, even in a year. Come graduation, you probably end up going to different cities. And a decade from now, he's probably going to marry some Brazilian while you marry your high school sweetheart, and your lives are going to take very different turns, if this has not already happened to you. See, the thing is, those little decisions compounded over time by the actions we take on a daily basis. Routines, habits, these things come back to bite us in the ass. This is the fight. You take your potential and you trade it in with your routine, with your habits, with that repetitive constant in your life that is the principles and the measurable goals, the KPIs. Action beats intellect and talent. This is the one thing they never tell you in school. You can be however intelligent, but oftentimes the men who succeed in business, they tend to be unremarkable, really. It was a short guy, or the guy who never really seemed like he was going to amount to much. But see, he had a certain tenacity about him because he never knew what it was like for everybody to tell him that he could do everything or he could be anything he wanted. The first thing that he found that he could do moderately well, he kept doing it to a point where he became the king of that mountain. You got to be consistent. You got to pick 1, 2, maybe 3 things if you're lucky. And that's just how it is. And you've got to fight for them. Really, really, really fight for them. You got to take up the fight with everyone. You've got to make it personal. You got to feel attacked when anybody comes at your time, when anybody comes at your goals. I like that famous saying, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win. Now is the time for living. You need to find your feet, strengthen your mind, and be ready for opposition in the face of your purpose. Now, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be glamorous. The point of these podcasts is not that it's going to be something that is shiny. It's not meant to sound like a motivational video. It's more to be pragmatic in remolding and remodeling and reshaping and redesigning your mind. Take it and beat it with full force on the anvil that is your imagination, and come out with something that is pleasing for you. I think when we're younger, we're told that being selfish is a bad thing. But when we become older as adults, we start to understand that being selfish is probably the best thing you can do. I had a friend one time. He picked up a wallet and he searched for the owner of the wallet for a good 3 months. He had a sizable amount of cash and he found the guy, gave him back the wallet. And I thought, man, you are a really morally upright guy. You know, you do so much good things. Like, you were so worried about this man, you found him and you gave him the wallet. And he looked at me and he was confused and he said, I don't understand what you mean. I didn't do that for that man. I'm not going to be able to live with myself if I know that I can't even return property to the owner that's not mine. I don't want to live in a world where people can't even consider that if it's not yours, don't take it. And when you become that man who's so principled that you are him even when no one is looking, see, then you become unstoppable. Then you're fighting. Then you're in the arena. Then you become the scary one.